To Politics Unplugged, I'm Ann Trujillo, and it's like deja vu all over again. The top items this session, things you're all too familiar with: transportation, education, health care. And during what was his final State of the State address Thursday, Governor Hickenlooper adding things like broadband expansion and affordable housing to that list. Mark Stewart sat down with the term-limited governor right after that speech to get his thoughts on his last year in the state's highest office.
Try and create some kind of conciliation on some of the most difficult issues, especially transportation.
I think the best way to persuade anyone about anything is to listen to them and really try to hear what their concerns are, what has gotten them into the place where they are. And I think the more clearly you hear other people and the more clearly they recognize you're hearing them, then they become a little more flexible and you become a little more flexible, right? It's never a one-person game, right? So I think we're really going to try and look for places to sit down with people on certain issues that they are really concerned about and not tell them what we think they should do or what's best. Really try to hear what their concerns are.
So Fortune 500 CEOs and such go to these boot camps, these executive leadership boot camps to learn how to listen better. So
is that true?
I think it's true. I think or how to be a better facilitator and such. So if listening is a big part of it, were you just not listening well before, or do you think or is there a new skill in that category that you've developed?
No, but I think you get better at all these things with experience. Someone asked me, a few years ago we had a falling out over an issue, and someone came up and said, what was the problem? You didn't listen hard enough? They were, kind of teasing me. I said, I was listening as hard as I can. Sometimes you do the best you can and you make a wrong decision, or things don't unfold the way you thought they would, or you end up sometimes protecting somebody who made a mistake and you don't want to embarrass them, so then you take some heat.
So a big part of creating group decisions, because that's basically what a lot of this is perhaps giving up something that you weren't willing to give up in the past.
Sure.
So as you approach this, are you willing to give up something that you have not in the past, or let go of something that in the past was just such a big issue for you? Or, I mean, are there areas where you can say, all right, I'll give this away if you give me that?
Well, there's a spectrum of things that any person cares about, and some they're passionate about, some they feel strongly about, and some they want, but it's not just a priority. It's just not a priority. I think within that spectrum, that some of those things that are your core values, people's civil rights, social justice, some of those issues, I don't think you give up on those. But I think there's a huge part of that spectrum where maybe you don't give up completely, but you modify what you thought you needed. You say, well, maybe I don't need all that. Maybe I can have a broader self-interest. And if my self-interest is broader, maybe their self-interest can be broader a little bit. And then all of a sudden, when self-interests overlap, that's where you have progress. That's where, in business, that's where you get transactions.
So people write books about that kind of stuff, and just looking ahead, you've already written a book.
Well, it wasn't about that stuff.
No. It was a lot more interesting, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I'm taking my mother to deep throat. Yeah, I know.
But you're making us all turn right here now. But as you look forward, I mean, I know you want to get through this year, and I know you're going to tell me that you want to get through this year.
I don't want to get through this year. Honest to gosh, I am looking at this year as the way a 7-year-old looks at dessert. In other words, I want to get there, but then I want to eat it very slowly. I want to prolong the experience, because I think it is going to be a great year. I've got as good a staff right now as I've ever had in any elected position I've been, as mayor or governor, any of the years. And that to have 1 year and know you've only got 1 year, that's almost like, on an Olympic diver, it's increasing the degree of difficulty, right? We're trying to get big stuff done that no other state's done. And I think we're going to get some of it done. I'm going to relish every moment.
Obviously, you have a businessman thought process. You have a scientific thought process. But did either of those prepare you, do you think, for this role and specifically this year ahead?
Well, it's funny that I have the science background and I have the business background. I understand small business and how to be of service, how to serve people, how to build a team. But when I was growing up, when I was 7 years old, I was the kid in 3rd grade that everyone teased and hated. My dad was very, very sick and died that year. And I was the butt of every joke. And I developed an empathy, I mean a visceral caring about other people where bad things happen to them, where they're the ones being bullied. You know, and that I think is an equal part. You've got to, I think understanding how systems work and the things you learn in business is important. But I think having an empathy for the people that are sometimes left behind in life. I mean, we've done, I think, more for people with handicaps and disabilities in this state over the last 7 years than probably any governor in history. We've really tried to understand it. We're trying to do it inexpensively and get value, but we're recognizing that people need sometimes it's just a night out, right? If your child has a severe challenge, sometimes you just need a night to go out and go to the movies.
So my last question is this. You have some division among your friends upstairs.
I've got some division between the Democrats and the Democrats. I've got some division between the Republicans and the Republicans.
So what's the wisdom then you are going to employ with them when perhaps they really do need a night out or something else? I mean, when it is going to be as contentious as some of these discussions will be, what's the new thing that you can pull out of your magic box that hasn't been used before?
Well, you know, I had a writing teacher in college who was trying to say that nothing's really new. He said, everything's been said, but not everything's been said superbly. Even if it has to be said freshly again and again. In other words, I'm not sure I've got a new trick in that magic box, but I think there are old ones that can be done freshly. And I think a lot of that's listening, a lot of that's creating a safe environment where people trust you and you don't betray them. They can have a candid discussion, and you can begin to get, sometimes it's like going up a hill, and you just got to get over the top of the hill. And then once you get over the top of the hill, the rest of it becomes it's almost all, as they say, almost all downhill. Republicans, Democrats, you know, it's funny, I was never in politics. When all those years building restaurants, I would do fundraisers. I did fundraisers for Republicans, I did fundraisers for Democrats. I wasn't that involved. I was always a Democrat, but I wasn't politically engaged at any kind of a level. And now I think that, in a funny way, that trained me for this moment in time that allows me to look at politics in a little bit more dispassionate fashion. To say, well, it's not all about being a Republican. It's not all about being a Democrat. Maybe right now in America, it's about trying to find the common ground between the two parties where we do agree and begin working on that for a while so we get, you know, it's almost like muscle memory, right? So we want to remember what it feels like to work together.
Stay with us. We're talking about the president's profanity, dreamers, and North Korea when we come back.